So my name is Bill Graydon. I am a principal at GGR Security. We do physical penetration testing up in Canada. So all of us in the green shirts and running the Physical Security Village, we are down from Toronto, Canada. So this is a follow-up to the talk that you just caught. You've now learned how to do these bypasses. Now we're going to talk about what you can do to fix them, either in your home, in your workplace, any other place that you are in charge of keeping secure. Security, as you know, is a constant game of cat and mouse. We find vulnerabilities, fix them, we then find vulnerabilities in the fixes and patch them, and it constantly evolves that way. And so we'll talk about the next step of that and a couple of the meta steps for what to do completely differently rather than just patching vulns in the common hardware. So you know a lot about lock bypass now, how to get through the latches. We've talked about cards and slipping, just pushing the latch out of the way. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yourself, by the way, go try it in the Physical Security Village afterwards. The best way is to install doors properly. They have hardware that is designed to prevent this type of attack. So in English, they're called dead latches, and that's that little triangle at the bottom there, or the smaller half moon on the image on the left. What these are meant to do is when the dead latch is pressed in, you cannot press the main latch in. So we'll show you a video of that. So the latch presses in, but when the dead latch is pressed, you can't press in the main latch. So what this is meant to do is when you're closing the door, the latch is able to go in and let the door close, but when it is closed, the dead latch is supposed to be held in. Often, that is not the case. So we see two examples of what's called a strike plate. That's what's on the frame of the door that the latch falls into. Relatively simple, unassuming piece of hardware, but it is that piece of hardware that allows many of the bypasses that you just saw. So that little half moon that is on the other side of the latch, the hole that the latch falls into in the strike plate is supposed to be narrow enough that the dead latch cannot fall into it. That is often not the case. And often, if you have a wider hole so that both of these can fall in, you can then do that latch-targeted bypass. Same with this style of dead latch, which is much better, by the way. If you have a choice, go with this style because it's below. It is nowhere near that latch. That is meant to engage with this bar here. That bar has a purpose of stopping the dead latch from going in. If this strike plate is installed too high or too low, it doesn't serve that purpose. So just installing doors correctly. You can also add a plate just to make it harder to get the tool around. That's not a great solution. You can still have a longer tool that will go around the plate, but it makes it a little bit more difficult, more obvious, takes longer for someone to bypass that door. And there's a couple examples of what they look like installed. So it just makes it more annoying. It doesn't fix the problem entirely. We've talked about handle-targeted bypasses, where you're reaching a wire under the door to hit the handle on the far side. The less gap you have, the better. So having a frame that goes around makes it harder to get the wire through. And then the type of handle matters as well. If you have a straight handle like this, it is a whole lot more annoying to get that bypass to work than if you have a nice 90-degree bend that you can hang your tool off of. So little design choices like that make it harder. They don't make it impossible. You can retrofit just adding a plate under the door, lift it up, reduce that gap so that a tool will not fit. So that's something that works, and a plate that has a lip on it, if we've got we don't have an image of that, but if you have a plate that has a lip, that makes it even harder. So anything to plug up those gaps around doors will help. Rubber seals are meant for weathering to prevent air from going through, but they make it more annoying for the tool to go through as well. And then windows as well, make sure that the screws are on the secure side of the door. If your screws are accessible on the insecure side, someone can unscrew the window and get through that way. Mag locks are also another way to add additional security. If you have an electronic door, you can also add a mag lock in addition to the latch, and that will prevent physically the door from opening even if everything else is bypassed. And of course, deadbolts. So we've talked about deadbolts. You can try the J-Tool deadbolt bypasses. Instead of having a thumb turn on the other side, just having another keyhole on the other side. So you need the key to get in or out. Sometimes you can't do that because of fire safety exit requirements, but if you can, it makes it impossible to bypass because you need the key for either direction. Similar to push bars that we talked about. In this case, it's a metal grate, very easy to get a wire or a string around to pull the push bar in from the other side. In this case, there's a big hole around here. We can reach through, push that in, and we're through. Adding just a plate of solid metal, plugging up that hole, right? We could add a grate here to prevent that. Just looking at the ways that we can get a bypass tool through and adding something to prevent that. You can also have one that sticks out like this, which makes it a lot harder to use just a string, because now a string will not physically be capable of pressing that bar in. But we can still come through the side, and so different tools will still work. So all of these things make it more annoying, more difficult, louder, take more time for an intruder to get in. And oftentimes, for this type of bypass, the best thing to do to spend your money on is to make it harder to break into your building than in your neighbor's. That's the reality of it, is get those low-hanging fruit cleaned up so that people can't easily, quickly, cheaply get in with no skill, and that's going to get 90% of your low-risk threat model, the sort of people who are in for a quick smash and grab, get money, get copper, whatever it is they're trying to steal. And then we'll talk a bit more at the end about securing the really critical places like data centers where your important information is held. We've talked about removing the hinges. You saw that. Adding a set screw, just that little screw there, getting a hinge that has that holds the hinge pin in place, prevents you from removing it. Getting hinges that have studs like these that go into holes on the other side means that even if we remove that that hinge pin, the hinge will not slide out and let us remove the door, as you saw in the video Karen doing in the earlier talk. Combination push button locks, simple as changing your combination, not just from the factory default, but changing it periodically so when people move on to other jobs, other buildings, they don't remember it. If it gets shared, it's no longer useful. Same thing with key boxes, change the combination. And with enter phones, we talked about that, how these are all keyed alike. The same key will work on all of these. And so these are two of the most common standard keys in North America. Down here in Buenos Aires, we don't have these type of enter phones nearly as often. It's usually the push buttons, which don't actually let you into the building. So we don't have that vulnerability. But these are common in North America, and you see them more often here just change out the lock. Buy any cam lock for a piece of furniture and swap it in to the box instead of the default that has the same key as every other one. We talked about request to exit sensors. So the sensors that look like this that you can spray canned air onto. There used to be one that you could swap out that looks for both thermal signature, so it's passive infrared, and someone actually moving towards the door using Doppler radar. It has gone out of business, unfortunately, and so there's not a whole lot of great options anymore. The best one that we recommend is if it's something low security, like the perimeter of a building that's open to the public during the daytime anyway, then this is fine. You can leave that as is. For something high security, like your server room, do not use a request to exit sensor like this. Instead, you can use a request to exit button, so someone has to physically press the button and then make sure there's no way to get a wire around to bypass through and press that button. And in the village, just outside, we have an example of that, a request to exit button, where you can actually get a bypass tool through to hit that button. So give that a try. A button is better. The best by far is another card reader. So you have a badge in, badge out system. You have to tap your badge when you leave the room. That is much more secure. It is the card reader equivalent of a deadbolt that has a key on both sides. And that means that you cannot bypass your way out without having access to the card that would get you in anyway. So more secure, less convenient. You can't just walk out and open the door and leave. You have to have your card and tap it to get out. Less convenient, but for a server room, it is worth it. For the perimeter of your building, usually that convenience is more important. We talked a bit about elevators. Same thing, change your locks. This is more a thing in North America. Elevators have lockouts where you have to tap your card to get up to a certain floor. The lockouts that put the elevators in special service modes are all keyed alike. You can change those. The one exception is fire service. You're not allowed to change the fire service key. In that case, hook it into your building's alarm system. If the elevator goes into fire service mode, send an alarm. And then the best by far is don't rely on elevator floor lockouts for security at all. There should be another door beyond the elevator lobby that protects your protected space. The reason for that is elevators, at the end of the day, are always an open shaft. And there is a very simple mechanical interlock behind these hoistway doors that we're not going to talk about too much today, but allow someone physical access through if they know how to open that hoistway door and crawl through the hoistway. So ideally, you have another door beyond it. What I've talked about so far is patches, right? Like you have a software vulnerability, you issue a patch for that software. That's often not the correct solution. In this case, the correct solution is often not to patch a request to exit sensor or an elevator. It is to not use it for security at all, come up with something else. So proper security culture is very important. Having people who know to look out for something that's out of the ordinary and report on it and get someone responding if someone's walking around with, sticking wires under doors and whatnot. Security culture is much more important than all of the hardware patches that I've talked about so far. Alarms and sensors, much more important. If you have the budget to add a bunch of metal plates around your push bars, or to add a passive infrared sensor in the room to set off an alarm if someone enters no matter how they got in, use the alarm. Because that will work no matter how people bypass in, or if they force their way in, or if they social engineer their way in. It is a completely different system that is more secure inherently rather than just a patch on a vulnerable system. Cameras as well, and surveillance, either by surveillance cameras or surveillance by security guards posted around, or natural surveillance. So you might have heard the term CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. It is a good field to study if you're into security architecture of how to design things so that anyone getting in is going to get seen from the street, seen from the reception desk, seen from people working in the office. So they can't get to your server room without a whole office watching them doing so. Design of your building like that makes it much harder in practice to get through these bypasses than just sticking additional hardware on to make it more annoying but still possible. And then timing analysis. So we've talked about alarms. You want to make sure that from the first point someone gets seen or sets off an alarm, it takes longer for them to get to your server room or whatever it is you're protecting than it takes the security guard to show up and stop them. And so that's where things that make the bypasses more annoying take a bit more time. That's where that works for you. Ultimately, anyone with enough skill and force can get through anything, given enough time. And so you just need to make it take them longer for your response to get there. So I've gone through this a little bit faster than I otherwise would to try to get us back on schedule. I will end it there and take any questions you might have on how to remediate the bypasses we just talked about. Thank you very much. If there are no questions for the front, then we can let our next speaker in only 6 minutes late, and I will be down here to take any questions that you think of after. Thank you, folks.